It really does feel like a village. It feels like what a community should be like.
People love it. I think when you actually move in up here, everyone loves it.
It's quite a pleasant experience, both shopping and to live here as well. Yeah.
The more time you spend up here, the more you realise you've got everything on your doorstep. The homes are, really economical to run. They're beautifully built.
I really like it here. See, you can park anywhere. There's no rubbish. It's quiet every night.
Like when the day we moved in, the neighbours came by and introduced themselves, and our neighbour has chickens, so he gave us some eggs, and yeah, it just feels like it's just kind of more a part of a community.
When I was growing up in the 80s, and you used to go to the supermarket for one thing and the butcher's for another and the florist, rather than going to a big supermarket, it's much more of a sort of community-based sort of feeling.
There are already about 1,500 homes built and occupied in Poundbury, but it's still only about 2/3 finished. But there's now great momentum behind it and a lot of building activity taking place. In front of us here we have a panorama of construction activity with various forms of housing being built.
One of the really distinct things about Poundbury, well, first, just the sheer numbers. If you look at the fact there are just in excess of 1,500 homes so far, and you've got over 2,100 jobs and nearly 190 businesses, I can't think of any new settlement, particularly not in a sleepy place like Dorchester or Dorset, that's actually, achieving anything like those kind of figures. So that is quite extraordinary.
A lot of the businesses here are independent businesses, so there's much more of a feeling of working, everybody works together.
Dissington will not be a translation of a previous template. It will be unique and it will be local, and it will be designed in a similar way that Poundbury was taking reference to the local building styles. So Dissington will learn from that reference to the local vernacular based on the local materials, this mix of stone, slate. This will be lessons learned on how to create this distinctive character in buildings.
In order to minimise the amount of parking on the roads, within the blocks there are these garage and parking courts. And in order to make them attractive to people to use, the architects have incorporated flats and homes within the garage courts so that there are always people around, there is always natural surveillance.
I think the key moment for me in knowing that Dissington was going to be delivered at the quality that I've argued for nationally, and which I've worked with government to help enable communities and councils to have delivered, was when the Prince's Foundation were engaged. Firstly, because they are nationally known for their expertise in community engagement. But secondly, the Prince's Foundation is very aware that their reputation is always hanging on the last project they've been involved with. Everyone talks about Poundbury. This means that they know in the future everyone will be talking about Dissington.
I have to admit, when I sort of grew up around Dorchester, and when they sort of started building Poundbury, I wasn't its biggest fan. But now it's all sort of taking shape. You really get more sort of sense, more sort of the feel for it. It's not bland, new build stuff.
I used to live in Dorchester. The opportunity just became available and we decided to move here, and it's been a really good choice. We love it here, we really do.
I actually love living here, and I didn't think I'd ever would, having come from sort of a country background. But yeah, no, it's just a really nice place to live.
absolutely core driving things that garden villages offer that normal conventional development doesn't. The first is you can locate it some way away from existing homes. So instead of it being in people's backyards, it's at a distance, and in fact the land between can be offered up for community use, as you see at Dissington. So people will actually get access to land that they've never had access before to, for parks, riding, walking, as well as things like flood relief. But the second thing is, because the land comes at a relatively low cost compared to those immediate edge of town sites, because landowners don't get anything like the same money and returns on it, that means that you release, instead of that money going to people's pockets, that money pays for the schools, the shops, the pubs, the doctor's surgeries, a great environment and better homes at a better price than you could otherwise afford. So it's no longer a bland anywhere housing estate, it's a genuine community in which people can work, live and play affordably for the future. The sons and daughters of people growing up in areas like around Ponteland, where they couldn't otherwise afford a home, or at least a home of that quality.
Dissington will be a garden village which will build on the heritage of the importance of Garden City movement. I think it will have a high quality of design, and I think perhaps one of the most important aspects is that at Dissington we have sufficient landscape to be able to provide a wide variety of green infrastructure.
So I think people will realise that if we do this properly, and they start to see, it's all about trust. You know, if they start to see the relief road going in and the funding being committed, which we think is pretty certain, well, it is certain, then I think the local community will trust us that this is actually happening. Once they start to see beautiful houses going up with a range of homes for both affordable and for downsizing and for young families, again you'll start to see that this isn't some frightful new community. This is actually, the residents will be hopefully a whole bunch of people who've come from the existing communities. So it sort of somewhat blurs the edges, and it just becomes a continuum of the place, you know, and the continuum of the community.
Poundbury is a great source of inspiration and starting point for Dissington. I think we're well on our way to creating something really special at the Dissington Garden Village.